Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. I can say everybody
Hello.
since there's more than one. So there's also thousands of people behind them. No, I'm
That's
just
right.
kidding. So we have today with us Janine. With John Edwards, we heard from him earlier last month,
That's right. We
and
did.
I'm happy that you were both able to make it today.
Absolutely.
So
Well, thank you for having
Thank you
us.
very
for having
much.
us.
So let's maybe, John, can you introduce your guest, maybe?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm more her guest, but I will start by saying this is Janine Gerzanics,
Yes.
Dr. Janine Gerzanics,
Okay.
and she is the owner and head of. I'm getting all tongue-tied now. Junior Manners Company,
Yeah.
which is a company that teaches etiquette and social skills for kids from like the primary grades through middle school, and then also does some courses for high school and college prep.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that we need more of today, more
Oh.
education in today.
Okay, how about people like me? Sometimes I forget to say thank you.
And you know what?
Well, we can help you
You
do.
can
All
always be
ages,
polite and
all-
always be
all-
fair.
You'll take any age.
Well, we do normally focus primarily
On
on,
the
on
children.
students, but we have parents who sit in, particularly if we're offering a customized workshop and we invite parents to sit in, and they actually
They learn
enjoy
from their
They
kids.
enjoy learning
Oh, okay,
too.
okay, that's good. That's good. As a teacher, did you come up with the idea because you found that a lot of kids don't have that skill?
Actually, I came to start this from a variety of angles. I've been in education for years, pretty much all my life,
Okay.
and I teach college. And I saw a lot of sort of social skills, common sense skills, life skills that many of my students didn't
Overlooked.
have.
They're overlooked.
They
Yeah.
overlooked, and they just didn't know quite how to act in certain circumstances. They would often say, ask for a letter of recommendation and not say please or thank you, and so expect me to do something for them, but really not show support or expectations and so forth.
Actually, it's cultural. In some countries, you don't say thank you.
Yes, exactly.
You don't say thank you. You just assume that the other person is going to do something for you later,
Right.
like karma kind of thing. But they don't say thank you on the moment. They say thank you maybe a week later. They bring you something.
Right, a gift or something.
But it's not in words. It's in action, actually.
We find that in some cultures, and actually some of my students do that too. And in our classes, we talk about manners, social skills around the world as well. So
Okay.
what if you're in this situation, or if you're in this country, how would that differ?
Okay.
But I actually primarily came to the company. My daughter was taking similar classes, and I realized that the view of manners was very old-fashioned. And people thought, oh, whenever you say the word etiquette or manners, they think of tea parties and wearing hats and frilly things. And really, it's about everyday social skills. It's about current issues. It's about social skills using the computer, using the phone, using modern technology. And it was a skill that I felt that we were losing because of this technology. So I introduced new curriculum, keeping the old traditional strong set of core manners, but really adapted the material and how we teach to current issues today.
Current issues today is people are on the computer and ignore the person, right?
Absolutely.
Right, exactly.
Isn't
Absolutely.
that current issue?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Very.
Or if I teach young men that they should offer to open the door for a young lady, what does that mean? Young
He
ladies
doesn't know.
They don't know. Should they? A young lady is perfectly capable of opening doors for themselves.
Oh, okay.
What happens if a young gentleman offers to open the door and the young lady snaps at him?
Oh.
So how do you deal
Would
with
that
those
happen?
sort of?
It wouldn't happen.
Sometimes it can happen. Yes.
Yeah,
would- that
it's
would be
seen as offensive or
I would do
patronizing.
I would
Yeah.
feel honored if a man opened the door for me because it's so.
I'd be
unusual.
grateful.
I'll be grateful
Yeah.
because a lot of time I carry something heavy.
Exactly,
Yeah,
that's exactly right. So we introduced classes for very young students from sort of second grade,
Yeah.
where we'd make them really fun and lively and creative, but whatever age of student we're teaching, and whatever specific workshop, we always work from the student's perspective.
Okay.
You know, what do they need? or how's the most interesting way for us to teach a skill to show it's relevant.
Okay.
You've got to have fun. It's not about me sitting talking with the students. It's not talk and chalk. It's about, okay, here's an issue. Let's discuss it. Has this ever happened to you in school? Has this ever happened to you?
So it's like a workshop.
Definitely workshops. We
Okay,
work.
so they stand up.
They can be standing up, sitting down. They can even be running if it's younger students. We have dance elements in some of the older students' classes.
Okay, but aren't you teaching them what you learned in your country rather than what's in this country?
Great question, particularly when I open my mouth and I have a slight English accent.
So they were wondering if you're teaching them the English manners.
Exactly. No, we look at manners around the world, but primarily we look at everyday manners.
The basics.
The basics and the universal manners.
Oh, okay.
And then we apply different situations to them. But it's really about using manners and social skills. And some is just about common sense, but using those skills for today, in today's world. And that's how we position our classes.
Okay.
They are not about drinking tea with your little finger curled. It's not about little garden parties. It's about how can you act how can you be confident in any social situation?
Okay. Okay, so got it. So let's say you have two students, let's say. So you put them one in front of the other. Are men supposed to be doing something different than the woman?
There's a few things that men have to do that women don't. For example, I do teach the students, or I tell the students about standing. Occasionally men have to stand in certain situations where women don't. But on the whole, there's not a lot that a man has to do that a woman doesn't. And we also make it fun. For example, if a gentleman is showing a young lady to his seat, it's best if you don't turn your back on the young lady.
Oh.
And I always say, why do we not turn our back on the young lady? And they say, well, she's so beautiful. Why would I want to turn my back on her and things? So we
What
make
do
it
you mean
fun.
show her the seat now?
Well, if you are at a function,
Yeah.
say John and I arrive at a function together,
Yeah.
and we go to find our seats.
Okay.
He may take my coat or my wrap or whatever I might have if necessary, and then show me to my seat. So once I sit down, then he would move to his seat, but he wouldn't turn his back to
Oh,
me.
very little details.
Very little
Yeah.
details, but they make an impression. Then.
Yes.
Oh, I never thought about it.
We were at a function the other day, and I was a little cold in the air conditioning. I didn't have sleeves, and John said to me, "Would you like my jacket?"
No
and I was
kidding.
like, "Oh." Just a little gesture, but it showed empathy. It showed about concern about the other person,
Yeah.
and that's really what manners are about. It's not about us.
Oh, okay. Actually, it's warm in here. Do you mind if I take off my clothes? It's the opposite, but I'm covered.
Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying, yeah, it could be a different situation. We have to be sensitive to the other
Right.
person's needs,
Exactly.
and it's not impolite to take off your jacket
No,
either.
of course not.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
Right.
And that's where the position that we start from. Manners, knowing how to act in a social situation is empowering.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to think, oh, what should I do now? Or which knife or fork do I use? Or is it right for me to do this or that? I already know, and I've practiced them. But secondly, it's about the other people in the room, the other people in the group. What I do, but to make sure that they are comfortable.
Yes, yes. When people showed me the first time the different forks, we didn't have different forks at my home. So it was a learning experience more than a manner experience. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yep.
so even though you don't do it at home, if you faced with that situation where there are different forks, then at least you know about it.
Yes.
That's the thing.
You can have confidence. Even if you can't remember all the forks, you can at least say, Gerzanics said, start from the outside and move in.
Okay.
You know, and then we
Yeah.
talk about, well, what if you make a mistake? Everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah.
It's about doing things with confidence and just saying, okay, well, I made a mistake there. Move on. It's okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So were you raised in a very strict household?
I wouldn't say it was strict. My father is a very traditional person, so we did have to act correctly, but he wasn't particularly strict. Gentle, kind,
But it was
considerate.
not a punishing father.
No, not at all.
Like
no.
if you did something wrong, he would not punish you.
No. No.
So that's good. This way, even, they should know that even if they make a mistake, they're accepted unconditionally.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's very important, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you don't want to
Punish
build a
the
lot of
child.
anxiety in
No.
with behavior. And growing up, I grew up in the South, and so
Yeah.
I had parents who were very concerned with proper etiquette, especially interactions. Not so much about whether I had my pinky out or not, or whether I used the right fork or not. But
They
still about how you interacted with people and being empathetic and respectful
gentle.
to other people
Yes.
and gentle, and it makes a big difference. And not when you go into a situation with that confidence, even when you do make a mistake, you're able to continue in that environment and not everything doesn't just fall apart around you and the anxiety doesn't take over. You just realize, okay, you can laugh it off, you can be sort of self-deprecating and continue to put everybody at ease and continue on and still make a good impression, even though you don't necessarily do everything exactly the way you're supposed to.
Also, they teach how to also write a thank you note after an interview.
Yep.
So that's a little bit further, like after to get your first job, maybe.
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
That's part of our classes for the older students.
Oh.
It's real life skills.
Yeah.
So what can you do in any social situation that you will find out there in the world?
That would improve your chance of succeeding.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We actually have a class that we offer called Academics and Advantage.
Yeah.
And it builds on the manners and etiquette that we teach in some of the younger students' classes, but it actually teaches common sense life skills. How to change a wheel on a car, how to read a map, because today we all use our GPS, but one day you might need to read a map.
Meet them in person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Batteries do run down.
Exactly. How to
like the real life stuff.
Exactly,
Yeah, and
how
you don't
to
have your
act in an
power cord to
interview.
plug into the car. So yeah,
Exactly.
eventually at some point
Or
you're
you're
going to have
not
to.
behind your screen.
how to open a bank account, for example.
Yeah, because it's easy to say something on the screen, but to face to face is a little bit more awkward sometimes.
Yeah, that's the grandma rule. If you wouldn't want your grandmother to see it, or your grandmother wouldn't be impressed, don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw a video. It's a mean video, but I saw a video this week on Facebook, and it's a young lady, maybe college or high school level, and she likes a guy, and she writes him a note, and she say, "I love you." So she go to his house, and it happened that he had a woman there. So what he did, he called the other woman, and he showed her the note, and he tore the note that say "I love you," and he threw it to her face.
Oh.
So how to handle a situation like this could have been handled a little bit better.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Than humiliate the girl in front of the other woman.
Right.
But it's to show you that in some culture they do it. I mean, they don't care about the other person's feelings, things like that. But anyway, that's a real life situation.
Yeah.
So we try to minimize these situations. So that they don't escalate to something really bad or anyway. So that was I don't know why I watched that video. It just appeared on my sometime you're on Facebook and it appears in front of you.
Well, actually, in that situation, both the young lady and the gentleman could have taken different classes with us because we have a class specifically aimed at older boys, older gentlemen.
How to handle that situation?
How to handle all that type of situation.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it goes way beyond the, dining etiquette, but really looks at some of the big issues in day-to-day life for the older boys, dating and
how to say I like you.
Yes.
Something like that, or vice versa. It could be vice versa. So I mean, those are so difficult situations that even coaching doesn't make it any easier. It's men-women situation are very difficult, I would say.
right.
And I think technology makes it even more difficult because when you're not face to face with somebody, it's a whole lot easier to say things that you wouldn't say to them in person and be a lot meaner, a lot rougher in your speech and bullying and trolling. I mean, today they call it trolling, but it's essentially when you don't have that personal interaction, it's when it becomes impersonal, it's real easy to let your baser self, determine what you do, and you come across, a lot more hurtful than need be. So, I mean, nowadays we call it netiquette, basically the way you behave when you're online communicating with somebody, because it's still important, because it still leaves an impression and it can still hurt. I mean, there are articles in the paper, unfortunately, we see all the time where, children are bullied, cyberbullied, and are, contemplating suicide because their self-esteem is taking such a hit.
Okay.
Even just by what they read on the screen.
Melania Trump says that will be her goal.
Yeah.
But I think she should start with her husband.
Yeah, I know. It's ironic, some of the things that
that we hear on the news, huh?
It is. It's one of the reasons why I'm not on Facebook as much anymore.
Oh,
is
yeah.
it just it got depressing. It got depressing to read some of that stuff, actually.
But I don't see, maybe because I'm an adult, but nobody bullies me. Maybe the kids do it.
There's a lot more that goes on at schools that we as parents or older people would like to think doesn't happen.
Really?
And we teach the students of all ages how to deal with it and how to stop it before it actually escalates.
Okay.
But particularly for the older gentlemen, the class that I was thinking of, the code really looks at difficult questions like, what does it mean to have courage? What about if you're with a group of guys and they're messing around and they, as a group,
what you would do?
Well, what if they want to go on and do something that you individually think maybe that's not really what I want to do, but you feel if I say something in that group,
I would lose my friends.
I'll lose my friends.
Yeah.
I'll lose face. They'll think I'm a coward. Any of those
So
things.
you say you just shut up?
Yeah.
Well, many times students would, but we look at those difficult questions. We have in the code we have different sort of 7 key points, or what would you call them? 7 virtues.
Virtues, yeah. They're based on the 7 virtues of the samurai code.
Really?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we have these. Actually, where's the camera? I'll
It's
point
called
to
the
camera.
code?
It's actually called the code because it's the warrior's code, and it is based on the ancient Japanese samurai virtues, the code. So we just call it the code, but we use those same 7 virtues as the basis for the class, and it's a way to teach young men how to deal with
courage and gentleness, maybe.
Courage and gentleness. Actually, the 7. Well, they call it, one of the virtues is called rectitude, and I like to think of it as just a sense of what's right, and being able to withstand peer pressure. If you're in a group of boys who want to do something is wrong, and something if you were by yourself or with someone else you would never do. How do you have enough sense of self
to not do it?
To not do it and take a stand, even though your friend or people you think are your friends will tell you.
Yes.
But there's also courage, benevolence, which is mercy toward others, politeness, which is another one, honesty, honor, and loyalty. So we use each one of those as the basis for a class, and then we talk about case studies in the news or whatever.
Very relevant case studies, things that have happened recently.
You bring up?
We bring current events up, and then we also bring in speakers, people who have experienced certain things, real life situations, and then the students discuss it. It's also a class just for young men, and it's only taught by men. Education is very feminized today. Majority of teachers are women, and so we felt that young men needed good role models, so they needed male role models, and they wanted to we wanted to give them a safe space to really discuss and learn from some of those really difficult questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one of the classes.
We can give them the skill set to be able to handle a situation that may not conform to a textbook example. If you're in a situation that doesn't fit neatly into what you've learned, how can you make responsible decisions and think critically and still come out knowing that you've done the right thing and stood up to your principles
they
and
have
that
to
sort of
also
thing.
have role models. Obama was a good role model. He treated his wife very well.
I think
his
so.
kids very
I
well.
do.
And he's a good role model for the children. And now they see this other guy.
Yeah.
He's not. He is a president, but is he a good role model?
Yeah. I think that's a whole show right there. I think actually.
No,
that
I mean
topic.
just because you have a title doesn't mean you are a good role
No.
model.
And what we also find is that the media, obviously because they're looking for drama, often tend to focus on the negative things.
And that's true.
So, for example,
Yeah.
in the most recent Olympics, you had a lot of media coverage on some of the negative things that some of the athletes had done, but very little coverage on, say, there was an incident where two runners tripped each other up, and they both stopped, and they both made sure that they were okay, and they both crossed the line together, and they actually won an award for that.
Yeah,
But you didn't-
for their sportsmanship.
For their
yeah.
sportsmanship. But you don't see, I mean, that's a big thing to get to the Olympics, to have an accident with a fellow competitor, but to make sure that that competitor is okay before you continue and you cross the line together.
Yeah, ethics is more important than winning
Exactly.
I think so. yeah.
Exactly. And so we look at some of those
because it's a
issues.
sport. What are
Exactly.
you going to win? Nothing.
Right. I mean, it's called sportsmanship for a
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you got to be sport in every situation of your life, I would say.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, you got to take it as it comes. I mean, you remember you were here 2 months ago, and then I didn't push record.
Oh, right. And we ended up,
We had to
we
do it
actually did
again.
2 interviews, really.
Yeah. So
first one
he
and the
took it
redo.
very well. He didn't really complain about it. And he was a gentleman. He started again without even mentioning it. And so that's being a sport.
Exactly.
And being gracious
Being
about
gracious,
situations.
Yeah, because it happens. There was a glitch, I know.
Yeah, and it could, and that kind of thing could happen to anybody. But
Right.
Yeah.
you know, for me, it was a chance just to do everything over again and do it better the second time. So it was fine. But,
Okay.
you know,
So
it was
that's
good.
nice of you to say that.
Well, but I think that it's true though. The handling things are going to happen that we don't have any control over,
Yeah.
and I think that's where grace plays a big part
Yep.
in behavior, is handling things in stride and not making someone feel self-conscious if something,
That
you know,
something
if they
went
make a
wrong.
mistake, or if it's a circumstance that, you know, it wasn't of their doing. You know,
Yeah.
you still don't want to take it out on someone.
Yeah.
You want to have a certain positive attitude and just keep moving forward. And
So you teach the boys, she teaches the girls?
well, the code is actually a class that we've developed. It's a new class that's added to the Junior Manners Company, and I'll be teaching the boys, but
Oh, okay.
eventually we'll have other
We have other
male
teachers,
teachers, and
too.
I'll bring in speakers.
But you
and-
know more about women issues, and he knows more about
Of
men
course.
issues.
Right.
So, I mean...
I try,
and
and
I
I
mean,
research,
You
and I
did the
study.
research on that? Okay, good.
Yeah.
You live it. You live
Well,
it. He lives it.
having a son of my own, I just know that how I want him to grow up,
Right.
and the examples I want him to be able to follow. So, this grew out of that, I think, in reading a lot of the current events and watching how.
They are teenagers now.
No, not yet. Although they act like it. They're
Okay.
11. They'll be 12 in September, and they're kind
12
of old
is
for
going to
their
be a
age.
little bit more difficult for you.
Right.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
nowadays 11-year-olds are like teenagers. I mean,
Right.
back in the 50s when someone was 11, they weren't nearly as sophisticated
Right.
as
Especially children in
11s
the Bay
are.
Area.
So
yeah,
they're
11-year-olds are
very
now.
aware. They have a level
yeah.
of
Yes.
awareness. Very.
Yes.
Very
A
high
lot of
level
the
of
students in the
awareness.
Bay Area do,
Yeah.
and we gear our classes to the needs and maturity levels of each individual class. So a class for 2nd to 4th graders is going to be totally different than say the class for
Right.
9th to 7th to 9th graders,
Yeah.
and then the code class is going to be quite different.
Yes,
Yeah.
a little bit a level.
Right.
They pre-adults.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the academics and advantage classes for the same age range as the code, but again, it's
Yeah.
more life skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that should give them a heads up on everybody else
That's exactly what we're
out
trying
there
to do.
who did not learn these skills. Is
Right.
that the idea?
That's absolutely the idea.
But the people who come to you have to be able to afford it, correct?
Correct.
So they already come from a family that already taught them some manners.
Yes,
You would think.
You would think. We don't always find that. But also, we have ordinary families as well. It's
Yeah.
not just the higher socioeconomic families. It's families who either recognize the value of teaching their students, giving their students these skills to be successful in life. We have payment plans if people can't afford to pay up front. We work with people. We customize things because we also do smaller customized workshops. Say you have some children who you know that their dining manners definitely need help, but other areas don't. So we could come into your home and do a small customized workshop just about dining manners. Or we do a lot of work with Girl Scouts, the National Charity League for Boys. We don't charge for any of that. And we have a little Girl Scout badge that we use. And it's a picture of two people holding hands, sort of shaking hands. So,
So the Boy Scouts go their way and the Girl Scouts go their way.
Not in
They
every
don't
class.
mix them.
No, not in every. In most classes they're mixed, but the code class is just for young men.
Okay.
So for 2nd to 4th graders, we have fun Saturday workshops. It's just a one-time. We use puppets.
Yep.
This is Lord Mannerly.
So you go with the...
For the young,
So
for
for
the
the
young
younger
students,
kids,
we have. This is Lord Mannerly, and we have his nephew there. And so we use fun things for the younger students. They do a lot of crafts and interactive things.
Right.
Two young men. Oh, no.
No,
this
this is for the
man.
this is for the younger students. This is
Okay.
for the little
Yeah.
ones.
No,
And
but
then we
this
have
is the father and the son.
He's
or
an
something?
he's the uncle. The storyline goes he's the uncle who like something out of Downton Abbey, basically, and his nephew here, who does not have quite the manners or the polish that he does, is sent to live with him for the summer. And so we
gotta
explore with
teach him.
humor.
Yes.
You know, he'll screw things up, and then he'll learn
And
the
Lord
lesson
Manley will come in
with
and
the
make them
with the uncle.
The uncle will teach him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we use these with the younger the little students, the
Yeah.
younger students, and they do a lot of physical activity. For example, we might be saying, all right, we're sitting at the table and I'm going to give you a topic. If you think the topic is okay to talk about at the table, run to this side of the room. If you think it's not okay to talk at the table, run to that side of the room.
Oh, there's things to talk about at the table.
Exactly. And then obviously as the students get older,
Yeah.
the classes get more formal. We have once a month classes for 5th and 6th graders. We talk about how you're making friends, how you act in social situations, and so forth. And
Isn't
then
that letting a third party do the discipline for the children rather than your own parents? Rather than you scolding your son to do something bad, you let her to do it.
well,
Yeah, exactly.
sometimes we do play the bad
Yeah.
copies.
Well, and
of it.
I know that even with my
This way
kids,
he
sometimes they
keeps-
pay more attention if someone
Yes.
else tells them.
Yes.
No,
'Cause they're
this
so
way
used to
they
mom and
keep
dad
your
saying
love
it.
for you intact, and
Exactly.
if they want to hate someone, they'll hate her.
Exactly.
We've played that role a few
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
We've played that role.
Oh,
Or parents say, I just can't do anything with him about this. Can you see what you can do? And because they don't see me as a parent, because I only see them in the classes, it's actually much easier for me to get a point across than a parent who's told them, 50 times, don't do that, close your mouth when you're eating. And because I have a different relationship with them, it's sometimes much easier.
Yeah.
But,
And there are puppets.
yeah.
And ideally, when they go home, they'll continue the lesson. The
Right.
parents will continue to be examples and reinforce what they've learned in the class,
Okay.
and not work completely against it.
And we sometimes
Create
give
a
them
need to come
homework
back.
to do. For the 2nd to 4th grade workshops, for example, if we teach the section on siblings, if they have siblings and they are arguing, we talk about how can you negotiate with each other and talk calmly. They have a chart that they could fill in for the week that you put on the refrigerator.
Yeah.
How, did we do this? Did we use our magic words today? Did we help with our chores? Because it's all about getting along with the family. And even in the once a month workshops for the 5th and 6th class and the 7th through 9th grade class, which happens from September through to March once a month, they have homework that they can do. We don't force them to do it, but there's homework for them that the parents can use to follow up if they wish.
Yeah, I saw a funny video yesterday. The mother was trying to teach her boys to pee in the toilet, not to.
There's some adults who still haven't mastered that.
I've noticed that, but she put signs all around the thing. So that's called a bathroom trauma kind of thing. But it was funny. So I don't know what kind of videos you watch on Facebook, but I get some funny ones sometimes. I don't know. So it goes by age groups.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. So.
Yeah, so light and very interactive for the younger students, and a one-time Saturday workshop, and then from 5th and 6th grade class and the 7th to 9th grade class, which is the bulk of our classes, we do it once a month. And it's only for an hour and a half once a month.
They
So
come on the weekend after school.
we go into schools sometimes and do a weekend, but normally it's the third Thursday and the fourth Monday of the month in different locations. And if you can't come to one class because you have a sports practice, you can always come to the other location. So we set high standards, but we are also very realistic. We understand that, for example, we have a dress code that we like the students to come in, but last year we had a student who unfortunately had left his clothes behind and had come straight from a soccer game. And his father was really upset. Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I said, you know, you tried, but there was a mistake. It happens. We're all super busy. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
So we aim high, but we're realistic.
Oh, yeah. So you think nowadays things have changed as far as inviting someone to dance or something like that? Things have changed because everybody dances together now.
Yeah.
I mean, is there an evolution in the manners now?
I think so.
There is. There's core manners. There's a real traditional core manners that we keep, but then we discuss those gray areas around the changes. We do still have some traditional dances for the older students, but that's primarily because they have to learn how to interact. They actually have to touch each other when they're dancing. And for the 5th and 6th grade students, that's a little uncomfortable. So we teach them that. But
what I was saying, nowadays everybody dances together. Yeah, so
and
things have changed.
Absolutely, and we do that too. We look at that. We look at how to interact with that. We look at how to ask a girl to dance if you want to ask her, or how to ask a group if you're going to all dance together.
And that brings them confidence.
Yeah, a lot of times we go through very specific situations and they're like, oh, okay, I'll try that next time. And then beginning of next lesson, we say, does anybody had anything that they've put into practice since the last class? How did it go? Did you have any problems? Were you still nervous? What could we do? And so forth. So we work with the students' needs.
Yeah, but the main thing, I don't know, is that they don't try to think that because they learn all these things that they are better. I mean, it's very important that they accept everybody, even those who are not polite.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we work really hard. We are not trying to create a group of entitled students at all. In fact, that would not be good manners.
Yeah.
That would not be good manners.
That's true. So, yeah, the better they learn the lesson, actually, the more gracious and empathetic they are, because respect is really the foundation of
the teaching
of etiquette. Yeah.
Okay.
We had I was teaching one 4th grade workshop, and we were talking about who do we have in our lives that we could say thank you to, people who do things for us on a day-to-day basis that we might forget to say that we might overlook.
Okay.
And I had one student, I kid you not, she said, well, we pay these people. Why do we need to say thank you to them?
Oh, really?
That's exactly what we are trying to address, issues like that.
Oh, okay.
You know? So I said, oh, well, who makes your bed? And then, do you make your bed? Oh, no, my maid makes my bed. Well, do you say thank you? No, why should I?
I actually never said thank you to my maid. I have to confess in public that I never said thank you to her. But we were friends.
Right.
Yeah.
We didn't... You're right. I never said thank you. All right. So I learned something today. It's better late than never, right?
It's never too late to learn.
No,
it's never too late to improve on your manners.
But actually, it's because my parents never told me to say thank you to the maid. She would come and go, and we thought it was between my parents and her, or it was not has nothing to do with me even though I was a beneficiary of our work.
Right.
I never thought it was my duty to say thank you. But I know my father gave her tips and stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. So that was missing from maybe my social skills. For sure.
Yep.
For sure. So anyway, it's very interesting. Do you teach, I know you're from a different country, so what is your language?
English is my main language. Obviously, we learn predominantly French as our second language in schools, and I've lived in many other different countries, so I picked up little pieces. Can you
handle a 10-minute in French?
Oh, no, I wouldn't even try, not today. No? I haven't used it for so long. Certainly not in public.
You too?
Oh, okay. No, I actually studied French in school, but I've not used it. Yeah.
I haven't used it for a long time.
And I don't use it here. I think if I had to go back and do things over, I probably would actually take Spanish, because I would have had much more opportunity. There have been many more circumstances where if I knew Spanish, I probably would have done a little better, but I don't run into very
But there
many
was a
French-speaking
company
here.
in San Francisco that was consultants for adults, but they were teaching how to do business in different countries.
Right.
I don't know if you heard about them, but to do business with a Mexican, you have to become his friend rather than try
Right.
to talk business on the first
Right.
coffee or something. And then to do business with someone from Saudi Arabia, there was a lot of things you just don't
Yes.
do.
Yes.
Right,
You just don't do. And then they'll write you off as no business with you now.
Right. And that's
all the more
predominantly
important-
for animals, for
Yeah.
adults.
To
Yeah,
make
we
a good
don't
impression.
address.
Yeah, that's mostly business
Right.
etiquettes,
Mm-hmm.
maybe how to do business with different countries.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, is there anything from kids from different countries that are different?
Yes, oh yes, and we actually ask them, what do you do? For example, it can be little things like, where you leave your knife and fork on the dinner plate to how you would greet. And we often address that. We say, even with the little ones, I'll say, well, why do you think we shake hands? What do they do in other countries? Why don't we jump up and down when we say hello? Why don't we rub noses or wiggle our ears? So I try to show them where our particular cultural activity comes from. We shake hands to show that we don't have a weapon in our right hand. So we not only address other cultures, but we also address where our cultural
But
activities come
shaking
from.
hands, that's a European thing.
It's
It's,
a
not
European
an
thing.
American thing.
No, but we still then in some situations you still shake
Oh,
hands.
yeah. I mean, where I work, I say good morning,
Mm-hmm.
but people are shocked. I say, what did she say? Because in France, we have to say good morning.
Good morning, right?
But if I say good morning in America, they say, this person is wasting my time.
Or do they say hi or something like that?
There's only one who answers good morning
Oh.
back, and he's an attorney, but all the others think I'm crazy to say good morning.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
maybe you
it's-
get a smile.
Well, it's sad that what happens in most cases is just a throwaway line. People say, how are you doing or good morning, and they really don't mean it. It's just something to say. And there have
I'm
been
talking about
situations.
meeting in a hallway, in an office. Some people just pass you by
Oh yeah,
at 9 a.m. in the morning,
yeah.
which is very impolite in France to do
Yes.
that. You have to say good morning
You
at
have to-
least.
yes.
Right,
You would
right.
be in
And mean it. Like when I'll ask somebody how they're doing, I actually want to, I expect them to tell me. And
Oh, yeah, how
I've
are
been
you?
in situations where people have said it to me and they don't really mean it, and so I'll actually go to tell them, and they're like, oh, I didn't really want to know. I'm on my way. I've got to go.
I have to make phone calls.
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
something to say like hi, but
part of good
it actually
manners is
sounds
al-
like a question, so I'll answer it. But that's just
Okay.
me.
So if someone said good morning to you, you wouldn't be shocked, right?
No, not
No,
at
it's
all.
okay.
In fact, we said good afternoon when we came in here, and the
Yeah.
gentleman behind the desk said good afternoon.
yeah.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
But good manners is also about listening. So if you came in and you said hello, how are you doing, something like that, you would then stop talking and wait for the response for the
Yeah.
other.
To see if the
person.
other person react.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's funny because sometimes they'll answer. You can tell that they're anticipating that you're going to say something else, and so they'll answer something that's not an appropriate answer for the question you asked.
okay,
Like,
okay.
"Hi, how are you doing today?" "Oh, you too." But that
Something-
answer doesn't even fit with the question. Obviously, you're not listening. You already kind of have in your mind what you're going to do,
That's
but
a
you're
little
not.
shocking too.
Yeah, you're not
Signature.
not present and stuff. And sometimes it's fun to do to people. It's fun to actually trip them up when I know they're not really paying attention to me.
Yeah.
Is I'll ask them something
But in
different.
school, they don't say good morning, they say hi.
Hi.
Hi, yeah.
I'll say good morning. I walk into my college class every morning. I'll say good morning, and they don't answer as a class. They'll say
Yeah.
hi, how's it going?
Yeah, something
whatever.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they answer, like, instead of saying goodbye, they say
See you later.
See you later,
Whatever.
or-
yeah.
something. So it is, it's cultural.
It's
I would-
cultural and it's also age related and environment related. I mean, they might say something different in a work environment than they would say in college. Different,
Yeah.
different.
It'd be more
relationship.
casual or something.
All right, I think we touched on everything. Did I miss a part of what you teach that you teach? We talk about the different age and
We talked about the different ages. We also talk about safety. Use on the internet and cell phones and just what to post, when to post what not to post and how to remain safe and to be aware. A lot of it is about being aware of your social situation.
Like, don't post after 10 p.m.?
Well, certainly don't text or call people after a certain hour.
And don't reveal, especially if you're an adolescent, don't reveal too much information about yourself online, because you never really, especially if you've not actually met the person you're talking to in person.
Oh, that's a safeguard.
Yeah,
You're not always
It's not
sure
just
that
nice, it's a
that's
safety.
who they say they are is who they really are. My kids actually do a lot of online texting, but it's usually with kids they already know from school. So when they're
So
when
it's
they're
not-
texting online, they know who
They know
these
who
kids
it
are
is.
because they're going to see them in real life at school, so it's fine. But they haven't really gotten to a point where
They
they're
didn't accept friends that are from another country.
They do in a few of the social sites that they're on. They've done that, but we've talked about it, and they don't upload pictures of themselves, and they don't tell what their address, their physical address is, or anything like
you
that.
tell them that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Like if you want to meet someone online,
Don't meet
we're
them,
assuming that they're they're kids and whatever. That's fine, but don't be
don't
revealing.
go meet
information.
them outside.
Yeah, or if they're
I'm-
asking, exactly. Don't go meet them. Don't make plans to go meet them in person. And also, if they happen to be asking you inappropriate questions,
Don't answer.
you let me know. Yeah, don't answer,
Tell
but
us.
let me know. And
And we'll remove them.
yeah,
Right.
They know how to remove someone?
yeah, they know how to block and
Unfriend,
bar people,
unfriend someone.
unfriend someone.
Yeah.
And also being careful what you post, say, for the older students on Facebook and things. I've had a number of college-age students who have failed to get internships because the people they have applied to have gone on their pages. And the things they have posted have been very innocent. One young student didn't get an internship this summer that she wanted because she'd posted a picture of a party when she was at a party, and she had a glass of beer in her hand. And that was it. But they said, no, that was it.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful, and those
You mean
things
she
can
was
stay-
underage and she had a can of...
No, she wasn't underage, but
Okay.
it was just because she was at a party. They got the impression that she was a party. Actually, she wasn't. But pictures, appearances, yes, can be very important. And so be very careful what you post, and it can stay there for a long time. Just because you delete something doesn't mean it really is gone.
Yeah.
So.
That's right, because you could be drinking alcohol-free beer and people think you're drinking real alcohol.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Real beer.
Or you
Yeah.
could maybe do it once in a blue moon, and people think, oh, she parties all the time.
Yeah, wrong impression. Oh, yeah. So be careful what your friend posts about you.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We cover all those issues as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
another reason why I actually don't post that much to Facebook anymore. If I'm concerned about the professional repercussions, I only use LinkedIn, and I only post things that are related
Totally
to writing and
professional.
professional. I don't post pictures of myself,
Yeah, because I
on
read
vacation
that
or whatever
all
on LinkedIn.
recruiters
Yeah.
look at your social
Yes.
media
Yeah.
Yes.
and they make an impression before they even interview
Yes.
you.
Exactly. Like if this
If they
person
see
has
that too, they're not going to interview you.
yeah, if they see that sort of lack of judgment, it's like, well, if they're going to post these sorts of things where I can
Oh,
look at
that's
it,
true.
what happens if they're representing our company? What kinds of things might they post that will come back to the repercussions? It'll come back to the company they work for too. I mean, you have to be aware of that. You know.
I don't know why people have such stigma about tattoo. Maybe it means something that it's not someone I want to hire if they have a tattoo, or
I guess. I mean, personally, I don't have an issue with it, but yeah, no, that's
that could be an indication of something not to post.
But just to make
Could be
students
off-putting.
aware, to really make them think. And I think our position is a good one because we are not the parents. And so, and because I do work in a college situation, I can give real life stories to the younger students of what has been happening to my college students.
Yeah.
And, and with the code class, if we bring in a speaker, they stop and they listen. This is somebody from a different situation. In fact, if we want to get a point across, after a while students switch you off. I don't know if your children ever switched you off as the mother, but then if you bring in somebody else who says exactly what you've been saying, it's amazing. You'll often hear them after a class go, "Oh, that's a good idea." And I sort of
it somehow makes more
I've been
sense when
telling
mom and
them
dad
that
aren't
for
saying
months,
it.
but it takes somebody
Yeah.
new to come in from outside and say the same thing for them sometimes to hear.
To
it.
listen.
Mm-hmm.
It happens to you with your kids.
Oh yeah.
They have to listen to someone else do it.
Yeah. It helps. I mean, I try to say it in a way. I try to give them a background or a rationale, behind what I say. And I've told them before that, their mother and I don't say things just to hear ourselves speak. It's like most everything we tell you, most every rule we come up with has to do with keeping you alive and healthy. It all comes down to keeping you out of trouble.
Oh, yeah, because you have something, a common goal toward the kids.
Exactly. It's like, I'm not just saying it because I have to or somebody told me. It's like there's a real reason, why you look both ways before you cross the street. It's like, it's...
Yeah, common sense.
Yeah, it's common sense, and it keeps you healthy. And no one wants to be in a cast or in the emergency room, so... I try to give them, show them what the consequences would be behind it, and that there is a real point to what I'm saying.
John has actually come into one or two of my college classes and taught a particular story. I teach English literature in college, and come in and taught a particular story. And it's been really interesting because they'll leave class going, "Oh, that was a really good point he said." And I'm like, "I said that last week." But a different face walks in. Yeah, the new guy walks in, and they perk up and they start listening. So.
Yeah, how you also set up the child in advance. This person is such and such person. You better listen to that person. That's a doctor, or that's someone who knows about life. Not the corner store grocery man. So how do you set it up in advance makes a difference.
I think so. Like you go in with a certain expectation and there's a certain aura that you have. I think as the guest speaker. I mean, I refer to it as being like the fun uncle. I can kind of breeze in and tell some jokes and whatever, and then I leave. I'm not the one grading their papers or anything like that. So I come in and get to do all the fun stuff and then leave.
Yeah. And she does the hard stuff.
Yeah. And she's the one who has to hand out grades to the kids who weren't paying attention. And like I get to miss all of that. I don't.
But then I'm in that situation when it's in the maths classes.
Yeah.
Wow. You guys have your own role to play on. Even with the kids, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You play the man role, and she plays the woman role.
And we adapt what we do and how we do it to each individual class. I've been teaching pretty much all my life. Been in education in some form or another. I run a youth program and a Sunday school and various other things. So I have experience with students of all ages, and so I like being very flexible. And my teachers, if I have a teacher who's teaching a particular thing, I also like them to be very flexible. I give them the core material. They're well versed, they're well practiced, they're well trained, but they also adjust what they do, or how they do it rather, to each individual group.
All right. And so which city do you teach in?
Well, right now we have locations in Los Altos and Burlingame, and next year we're opening one in Palo Alto. Those are for the monthly classes, but then we actually go into schools and
they ask you.
If they ask us, yes. Normally what happens is a parent will contact us and say, could you arrange and come into our school, and then we contact the PTA or the principal and we go in that way.
Okay. So the school might pay for it?
Sometimes the school pays for it. Sometimes it's a group of parents.
It's a parent, okay.
Yes.
Sounds good. Sounds like you're all set up to succeed. So thank you both for being here. I think I understand what you're doing now. And maybe I might need to take the course myself because I have a lot to learn. So thank you so much. It was
thank
fun.
you.
Thank you for having us. It was great fun.